All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. I'm just getting set up here. We're so happy that everyone's here today. All right, while everyone else is getting logged on, I just wanted to cover a few quick housekeeping items. First of all, I wanted to shout out the folks who have sponsored this webinar today. One of them is SARE and also MSU Extension. I also wanted to give a shout out and thank you to OneUp Web for lending us Jillian Cobb to help present this information today. We're really happy to have her here as another expert. There is also going to be a giveaway after this webinar. So if you have registered as either a farm or a food business, you'll be entered in a giveaway for an SEO audit from Taste the Local Difference. So you don't need to do anything, just keep an eye on your email and we'll send you a note if you're the one who won the giveaway after this is over. There's also going to be a few polls throughout the webinar, one at the very beginning and one towards the end. So keep an eye on that section of Zoom and please try to respond to those for me. That's part of our reporting for this program. All right, and finally, there is a Q&A option. If you have any questions throughout the entire webinar, feel free to drop a question in that Q&A and we will answer some throughout and then also try to get to any questions there are at the end as well. I know that SEO can feel a little daunting sometimes and it's probably a new topic to most of you. So please don't feel like any question is off limits. We're here to answer whatever you might need help with. All right, well, I'm Christina Marbury. I'm the digital marketing specialist at Taste the Local Difference. So I help TLD as well as our partners with their digital marketing. I am an SEO specialist. I also specialize in social media and some other digital marketing channels as well. I've been working in the local food systems work for quite a few years now, and I also used to be a market manager. So I have a lot of experience kind of across different business types. Jill, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian Cobb-Nemisto, and I'm a senior SEO and content marketing project manager at OneUp Web. Christina calls me a search engine optimization expert, so I will take that and run with it. My husband and I also, in the past year, have launched a small cottage food business. And many moons ago, I actually used to work for the Michigan Farmers Market Association as an intern at MSU. So I'm very excited to be here today.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so here's the game plan for today. We're going to do a really basic introduction of what is SEO to kind of give you a sense of what it is, how search engines work, just to kind of set the stage. We're going to talk quite a lot about content on your website because that's a really important part of SEO. And then we're going to jump into blogging because blogging is a great way to expand the content that's on your website. And then we're going to talk about local SEO as well, because I know most of you are local businesses who are going to be looking, at how you can better perform locally. So first, that poll that I mentioned as everyone was getting logged on, I'm going to launch it right now. Just a quick response to tell us kind of what your baseline understanding of SEO is. This will just be helpful for us as we work through to determine, how in-depth we should get with the information that we share. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Jill to cover the first section.
Yeah, so what is SEO? SEO stands for search engine optimization. And when we think about SEO, especially for local businesses, a lot of that comes down to your website and the content that lives on your website. So search engines are always working to benefit the end user, the person who is going online and searching for something. So SEO is the science of writing content using keywords and phrases that allows those search engines to serve users the information that is most relevant to their query. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that when we're writing SEO, we're writing for computers, and really what we're doing is writing for users. We're writing for the people who are looking for the information that you have to share. Thinking a little bit more about SEO and search algorithms, really the algorithms that are behind the scenes working to serve this content use these sort of three qualifiers: search intent. So what is the user looking for, and does that live on your website in some way, shape, or form? The quality of your website and the quality of the content that's on your website, and then the relevancy of the content on your website. So how relevant is it to that user's query? So a great example would be your website might say something about a certain variety of apple that you have, and a user might be searching for that specific apple. That's a really relevant search result because you're using a keyword that's very specific to that user's search. A lot of the time we'll use multiple keywords throughout our website to make sure that we're getting sort of broad match and very specific matches to those queries. So how do we approach SEO? We approach it from many different standpoints. The first one is through content optimization. So search engines use the content on your website to understand what your business does and how your site should appear in search results. So we go in and optimize the content for the search results that we want to appear in. For example, if you want to rank really highly for carrots in Northern Michigan, that's something that we're going to want to make sure that we're writing about on our website. Without that information there that's a match to that query, it's going to be really hard for those users to find you while looking up that piece of information. There's also technical pieces to optimizing a website. How quickly a website loads, how cleanly the code is written. Those all affect how a search engine is going to use your website to serve up relevant content and relevant information. If your website is really slow or it's not really built in a technically appropriate manner, search engines are keen enough to not send users there. They're going to say, this isn't going to give you a good experience. I'm going to send you to this other website that's going to give you a better experience. And then further, an additional consideration that we always like to keep in the back of our minds is your overall online presence. Having active and strong social media channels, using things like Google My Business, well, they're not necessarily direct ranking factors. They help send signals to those search engines that your business is active, that you're providing content to users, and that you're sort of legitimate.
All right, we were going to leave some time right now for questions, but I don't see any questions in the Q&A section yet. As I mentioned, remember, feel free to send those in. We'll make sure to address them as we work through everything. All right, so this next section is about effective content. So as Jill mentioned, the content that's on your website is one of the most important things when it comes to how search engines decide what pieces or what websites, what pages of your website show up in the search results. So there's a number of things that we want to think about when it comes to the content on our website. The first one is keywords. This is probably something any of you who have a little bit of experience with SEO have heard about or thought about. We think of a keyword as any term that users are searching for in Google, Bing, Yahoo, whatever the search engines are. You'll definitely hear us reference Google most often because it is the biggest one. Over 90% of searches happen there. So SEO involves choosing relevant keywords for each page of your website and targeting them in the content. Like that carrot example that Jill shared, if carrots are one of your main crops and you're really focused on trying to get the word out about selling those maybe wholesale or on a larger scale, if you only have content on your website about being a farm in whatever region it is that you are based in, Google or the other search engines aren't going to know that carrots are one of your major crops. So we want to make sure we're targeting that keyword specifically. So when we decide what keywords we want to target, we want to think about the relevancy. So is it something that someone who's looking for a business like yours or your business would be searching? And we like to think about that, getting a little bit more specific. Like if you offer online orders and somebody's searching specifically about purchasing online, making sure, that you're choosing those online purchase keywords. If you're writing blog content that's more informational, you might be using more of like question-based, more informational searches, like what's a great recipe to make with carrots, sticking with that carrot example. And the next one says, have the right intent. So that kind of fits in. We like to think about, what a user is intending when they search, meaning what they're looking for. So if we're optimizing content for keywords, we want to make sure that we're meeting that intent and providing the information that a user who's searching for that keyword wants. Jill mentioned that we think a lot about search engines and computers when thinking about search optimization, but really it's about the user. Especially in more recent times, search engines, the way that they're writing their algorithms and trying to deliver content really is focused on the user. So providing that information for the user is super important. And thinking about the keywords related to that content you provide is also really important. So on top of just making sure they're keywords that fit your content in your business, we want to make sure that they have search volume. So search engine optimization folks will use keyword research tools. I'll talk about those in just one second, to determine search volume, how many people per month are searching for any given term. And so what we do there is kind of get a better understanding of how people are actually interacting with search engines and understanding if they're searching for, Northern Michigan asparagus, or if they're searching specifically for Traverse City asparagus, or, something that has a little bit different of a meaning, but somewhat similar depending on how you're thinking about it. So we try and find, the way that people are actually searching about something, which isn't always the way that we think to talk about it. And then those keyword research tools will also give us a rating for how competitive a keyword is. For most tools, it's a rating on a scale from 0 to 100, with most keywords falling between 50 and 100. I usually, especially for a smaller business, try to look for keywords that have closer to like a 60 or 70 rating for keyword difficulty, which is that competition score. And what that is basically a score that those keyword research tools are giving keywords to determine how hard it is to actually rank for them. So you might have a keyword like, trying to think of a good one, like hamburgers in Ann Arbor. And, some really big chain restaurants might be at the top of the list for something like that. Or a website like Yelp that's putting together a list of the top hamburgers in Ann Arbor. And so we want to try and find those keywords that are really relevant to your business, but aren't too competitive, and kind of have that right level of competition for your business, because it's really hard to compete with those big players. Please feel free to drop questions. Again, just going to shout it out because I know this is a little hard to understand sometimes. But there are a number of free tools for keyword research. My favorite tool is called SEMrush. It is a paid tool, but there is a free version where you can do about 10 searches for keywords a day. So if you're just doing it for yourself, the free version is totally fine, especially if you don't have a big website. And then two things that can be really helpful right in the Google search results to try and understand how people are searching a little bit better is the Google auto suggest. So when you start typing a search into Google and some of those example answers show up underneath where you're typing, those are things that people search. And that's why Google thinks you might want to search them. So that can be a really good free way just to try and get a sense of how people are searching. There is also at the bottom of the search results a little box that says people also search. And if you go down there, it'll give you some other related keywords that people are searching related to whatever it is that you've searched. So you could search, an example about your business. category or a type of product that you offer, and then see what else people are searching that's relevant to that as another way to kind of get a free sense of what people are searching for.
Hey, Christina, one thing to note here as we're talking about keywords, there are probably a lot of us on this call who are incidentally ranking for things without even necessarily trying. And those are probably, in a lot of cases, they're going to be broad match keywords. So the top of the funnel keywords, the broadest keywords out there. Maybe it's a product, or maybe it's business in X location. So then it product searches or location searches. And those are awesome. It's really great when you incidentally get to rank for some of this. And then doing a little bit of research, like what you're saying with some of these free tools, is how you can sort of build upon the success that you already have by adding some of those more narrow keywords, those sort of longer match keywords that are more specific to a very specialized query.
Awesome. That's a great point, Jill. We could spend the whole hour talking about keywords if we wanted to, but really they're on a big spectrum of really broad to really specific. So it is good to note those keywords that you are already ranking for, and those location keywords as well, definitely. All right. So this section, keywords are really important to think about, but what we also really wanted to talk about was creating compelling content, writing the actual content on your website, because the content that you have written on your website is really important in determining how well you rank, and that it needs to have those keywords. But also I like to think about it as, thinking about all of the services and products that your business offers and making sure that they're clearly communicated on your website. And that usually will get you pretty far even without taking that technical dive into keyword research. So when it comes to creating compelling content, the very first thing to think about is simply writing well. It's really important to make sure that the content that you write is really clear, that it's to the point, and that it's easy for users to read through that information. We don't want to make it, too long and flowery, so that it's too hard to find the point, essentially. We want to make sure that we're providing all of the information that users are looking for. We've referenced this a few times. Search engines use that content to understand your website, but they also are really, really trying to provide the best experience for users who are searching for something online. So we want to make sure that we are providing all of the information that someone searching whatever keyword we're trying to target would want to know. And if that's information about your products, then it's providing a really deep and detailed explanation of what your products are. We want to be better than the competition. That obviously probably applies in many areas of your business, but it also applies in the content that you're writing on your website. And the way that I like to think about this most is by searching those keywords that you want to target on a given page and looking at who's ranking for that keyword, seeing what sort of information that they're providing, and then trying to do better than the way that they're doing it. And that's a really great way to just get competitive when it comes to your content. Sorry, I just stopped to look at a question. So really, you just want to think about, let's see, I'm getting a few questions. So providing all the information is about, if somebody's searching for carrots in northern Michigan, as Jill pointed out as an example, you might want to provide, what type of carrots do you grow? Where are they available? How can somebody purchase them for you? All of the things that they would be looking for. And the reason that we say that is because search engines see it as a negative if somebody visits your website and then goes back to the search results to look for something somewhere else. So we basically want to ensure that someone coming to your website can find what they need and what they were looking for, and that they don't then go back to the search engine to look for more information.
You can almost think about it as like a catalog, right? If you want to if you want to compare it to something, your service pages, the product pages, the things that you offer, those pages are almost like your catalog, and they're just giving all the details about what you do, how you have it, how you make it or grow it, and how it's available to someone.
Awesome. Thank you. I also want to answer another question just as we're working through this, because I'm going to keep referencing this and I don't want folks to be confused. Someone asked what we mean when we're talking about ranking for keywords. So we covered that a keyword is something that someone is searching in the search results. Folks who are really, really focused on SEO are paying really close attention to how they rank for those keywords. So if somebody searches for, a specific keyword, if they are the first result in the search results. So if they're showing up at the top. And you could rank anywhere from 1 to 100 for a given keyword, but anything in the first 10 results is going to be that first page of the search results and the place that most folks are spending time looking for a business or looking for the information that they were asking of Google or another search engine. I hope that clears it up. All right, I'm going to scoot on to the next tip here. So we want the content that we write to be really easy to read. This kind of relates to writing clearly, but also added into that is about the organization of the content. So I often see websites that have, just a bunch of paragraphs of information, but it's not organized really well. I like to tell people to kind of forget the things that they learned in high school English class. We don't need complete paragraphs with 5 sentences each. We can kind of break those rules when it comes to writing for a website. What's really great is when you have headers, so larger text that's separating smaller chunks of text. So if you might have quite a bit of information on a page and a user wants to scroll through and kind of get a sense of what's there and just read the sections that are most important to them, you want to make it really easy for them to do that by using headers and organizing that information in a way that is really clear. So very closely related, use those headers to organize that information. And then the next one is also relevant to that easy to read section, which is using lists. So not just headers, but also bulleted lists, numbered lists, anything that helps to organize that information and make it really easy to skim. I'm sure you are all extremely busy people, as most small business owners are, and can probably relate to the fact that you go to a website and you skim. Everyone is always skimming when it comes to website content. And the headers and those lists really make it easy for people to skim content. One other note about headers, it's important to include keywords in your headers. So search engines look at that larger text on the page to help kind of give them an overview of what the information on that page is about. So including keywords in those headers is also really important. All right. So 2 more things that are relevant to the content on your site. They're a little bit more hidden in the code, but they are really important when it comes to search optimization. They are title tags and meta descriptions. So a title tag is this blue text that you see when you do a search. It's the link that you click on from the search results. You can actually change what that says on the back end of your website. And using keywords and making that, a clear description of what somebody's going to find on the page, or if it's your homepage, a really nice, clear description of who your business is really helpful for users and for search engines. I'm sure you've all had the experience of scrolling through search results and, looking at that text to try and determine where you should click or what you want to look at from the search results. So we want to make sure that we have title tags implemented on all of the pages on our website. They should be 50 to 60 characters long and include keywords. The length is important just because if it is longer than that, you're going to get an ellipsis at the end and it's going to cut it short. The other one, meta descriptions, is this gray text that you see underneath the title tag in the search results. This is not what we refer to as a direct ranking factor. Search engines are not reading this text and determining how to rank you because of this, but it is some really helpful added information, a call to action to try and encourage users to click through to your website from the search results. So I like to include something, that is engaging and calls people to visit your website in that section. And that text should be 140 to 160 characters long. Again, that's just because that's the space that they've allotted. All right, that is the end of this section. I do have a question about some SEO keywords for free, keyword research for free. I will post a note in the chat about where you can do some free keyword research. And Jill is going to tackle this next section.
Perfect. Thank you, Christina.
Oh, hold on. We have one more question. Sorry, Jill.
Nope.
Where can you update the title tag and meta description? It is different depending where your website is created. So if you have a WordPress website, there is a plugin called Yoast, which is the most common way to edit them there. Honestly, what I would recommend you do is search on Google. I always tell people they should Google things, but it's just a tricky question to answer because it is different depending on the platform. So I would go and look, how to edit title tags on Squarespace or Wix or Weebly or whatever the website platform that you're on is. There are a few of them that don't permit you to edit them, but most of them have a way for you to edit that information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might actually, I've done this before. I've actually watched YouTube videos on how to change things in the back end of a website. And there's some really great YouTube videos on this subject for different website types.
That's a great example. YouTube's really helpful for those platform specific things because the video will walk you through and show you exactly where to click.
Absolutely. It's my favorite. One of my favorite uses of YouTube. Let's talk a little bit about blogging. So if the core of your website is the main information, your service pages or your product information pages, there's only so much content that those pages can hold. And there's only so many keywords that you can really target on those pages. Blogging is a great way to provide more information to your users and also, incidentally, use more keywords and expand the content on your website so that you can reach more users with information that is most valuable to them at that time. So why should you blog as a business? You can share your knowledge and establish credibility for your brand. You add fresh content to your website. Believe it or not, regularly updating your website with new information is a really important signal to search engines because it signals to them that your content is relevant and it is timely and that your business is active. Blogging also helps you to attract new customers because you can write blogs about more than just your narrow focus of the products that you have available. You can write blogs about how to use those products, why your products are different than a similar product in the market, etc. It really allows you a space to create content that is specific to different buckets of users who might not be coming to your main service pages. And it allows you to engage your customers further. So say you have a customer who comes to one of your service or product pages, you can keep them coming back to your content or to your website, even though they already have that initial piece of information, by providing them things that build on what you've already shared. You can also provide resources, things like recipes, tips, or other things that are related to your products. And finally, blogs are really great because they're a really awesome sort of kickoff point for social media content. As a business owner, you're trying to reach out to your audience on all of these different platforms, and you're also trying to manage your time wisely. By creating something that lives on your website that can then be shared on social media, maybe not just once, maybe it's a piece of evergreen content that you can share every couple months or every year or every spring. You're sort of you're combining the work and getting a lot more result out of the effort you've put in. So how do we choose blog topics? There's a lot of different methodology behind this. We really like to start with a brainstorm session and really putting our mind frame in the mindset of the user. So if I was looking for my product, what would I be looking for? Or what would I be looking for that's similar to my product? Do I need to know what to do with this product once I purchase it? Do I need to know about the benefits of it, etc.? You can also think about things that are more focused on your industry. What's most interesting about the industry you work in? What's unique to my region or my locality? There's gonna be an audience for anything that really engages you and engages those that are around you. After we brainstorm, it's really great to come back with keyword research. So you can take your topic and say, this is sort of the general topic that I think I need to write about. What are the keywords that help me attract the users who are interested in this topic? So we're matching the intent of the content with what the user is going to search for to get to that content. And finally, we like to use tools that help us make sure that our content is seasonally relevant. So here's another one of those tools, and maybe Christina can throw a link to it in the chat for us. It's called Google Trends. And essentially what it allows you to do is look at keywords and look at how relevant they are at different times of the year, or for a longer period of time. You can look at, I think it allows you to look at up to 5 years worth of data at one time to see sort of, are there spikes in your industry? Are there spikes in parts of your industry or in products that people are looking for, and write about them when they're most seasonally relevant. And I do want to make sure we're stopping. If anybody has questions, don't forget to throw them in the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to pause for a minute. Does anybody have any questions about blogging? Please put them in the Q&A if you do. And I'm going to put also I put a link to SEMrush, which is my go-to keyword research tool, and also a link to Google Trends, which gives us that trend data. And then I'm also going to post another link to some other free keyword research tools. This is a list of additional free tools. There's a ton of them out there. All right. So we have 2 questions, Jill, about what a good length for a blog post is.
Okay, that is kind of a loaded question in our industry. There used to be some sort of word counts that I think we wanted to hit, something like 700 words. But I would advise anybody who's just learning about blogging, or who's maybe taking a second look at their blog, to actually base the length of your blog on the content that you have to write about. If you can answer a question in 400 words, or really adequately address a topic in 400 words, don't feel the need to stretch it out to 700 arbitrarily or 750 arbitrarily because SEO tells you to. At the end of the day, this is another place where we're trying to just get users the information they're looking for. And in a lot of cases, they don't want all of the fluff. Now, that's not to say if you don't have a great story not to tell it. You should absolutely use your blog and use keywords to try and talk about your business, tell your story. But I wouldn't be hampered by a keyword length. If you really want one, 500 to 700 words, I think is like a really good starting point. But don't feel penned in by that, or like you got to keep writing when you're out of words.
Yeah, that's a great answer. It is a loaded question. Because people have a lot of different opinions about what the right answer is there. But really answering whatever you want users to know is most important. I'll also add that one thing I really like to do when I'm writing blogs is to search for the main topic of my blog in Google and then look at that section that says people also ask. There's usually, it's like an accordion with a number of additional questions there. And those can be good things to add to a blog if you're feeling like it needs to be longer or you want to share more information on the topic, but need to broaden the issues or topics or whatever that you're covering in the blog post. And then, it just comes back to what we talked about before with headers and bulleted lists and things like that. If you organize the content, then having a really long blog can be beneficial. But if you don't organize it, it can be really overwhelming to folks because they can't find exactly what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to think about when you're thinking about your headers. It's not just, I think a lot of times headers get sort of misconstrued as just like a design element. But like Christina said, they're really important for housing your keywords, but also for making your blog accessible. They help break up that content for users and also for accessibility. They're really valuable in organizing that content in a way that's easy for everyone to understand.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we've got one more question on blogs, which is how or where do you start a blog? The best place to have a blog, in my opinion, is directly on your website. Sometimes folks will start a blog that is separate from their website and has a different domain. But in order to really get those benefits of blogging for your business, the best place to have it is on your website. Because when you're blogging on your website, you're basically building this wealth of information on your website that's related to your business. And it's communicating to search engines all of the ways that you are an expert or somebody that they should be sending users to related to that industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of juice to it.
Yes, exactly. Most website platforms will have a built-in blog feature that you just have to turn on and add blog to your top navigation, and then you can start adding blog posts to it pretty easily. And most templates have a blog template built into them already. All right. So then another question about headers. Do you need to make sure that they are HTML tagged as headers, or do you just mean any emphasized text? This is gonna maybe start to get a little bit technical, but I will give a quick answer to this. It is ideal for them to be tagged as headers. If you are editing in the back end of your site, usually if you select something to be an H1 and H2, it's gonna tag it in the code as that type of header. And the reason that it's important to do that is because of that accessibility issue that Jill mentioned, which is a whole separate website topic. But essentially, there are many ways that users use, or people who cannot just look at and read the content on your website. People will use what's called a screen reader to navigate your website, and having those headers in that are tagged as headers allows them to scroll through your site and just look at the headers, or just have the headers read to them without having to have their screen reader read all of the content. I hope that makes sense.
Christina's right. That's a huge topic. Sorry for the tangent on it.
All right. If there aren't any other questions, and there will be more time for it at the end. So if you have more later, don't worry, we will get to them. Oh, okay. You're asking for SEO in particular for headers. There is currently a little bit of a debate about that. Previously, it was yes, tag them in the HTML for SEO. It's really important. And now search engines are starting to get smarter. You'll hear that over and over again. They're getting smarter. And now they can tell when text is larger on the screen, and they are going to give it some priority just because it is that larger text. But I still do think the best practice is to tag it as a header officially. And one other thing related that I'm just going to point out is that I do notice some people will put text over an image, like design an image with text in it, and then upload that to their site as like a header essentially. But search engines cannot read the text that is in your images. So I do not recommend doing that. I recommend uploading images without text and having all the text live actually on your website in the code. All right. So the next section that we're going to talk about is local SEO. So diving into some of the things that can really help on a more local level when people are looking for businesses that are close to them. We think of any search term in which it's related to local businesses as local SEO. Or as related to local SEO. And for really anything that is local business related, search engines are starting to show more localized results. So if you are searching for a restaurant or a farm or something, and you don't put a location qualifier in, so you don't say farms in Traverse City, you just search for farms, search engines still know that you're most likely want to find farms that are close to where you are, and they're going to serve you some of those more localized results. So we want to think about, what we need to do in order to rank for those very local terms. And especially for this group, I think the majority of what you do is probably going to be pretty hyper localized. Most of you are probably selling mainly to people that live in your area or in your region. So the number one, very simple, most important thing is just being clear about your location and where you sell your products in the content that's on your website. Just make sure that if you're based in a specific place and you sell in a specific place, make sure that's clear. Talk about it. Include it in your headers, what town you're based in, or what your main, metropolitan area that's your main target market is. Include that information on your website. Pretty simple. The next one's a little bit more complicated. So I recommend that everyone implements local business markup on their website. This, again, is a whole topic that I could spend a long time talking about. But essentially, there is a type of markup that you can add to your website that tells search engines a little bit more information, a little bit more context to the content that's on your website. And the most important one is local business especially for small local businesses. I recommend using a tool called Google Data Highlighter to do that. It's very simple. It doesn't require writing code or anything. You just have to highlight the name of your business and tell them that that's the name of your business, and highlight your hours and tell them that those are your hours. So I definitely recommend doing that. And then the thing we're going to spend the most time talking about is local listings. So local listings are anywhere online that your business can be listed. The big ones are Google My Business, Yelp, things like that, where people are looking for information about a business. But there are also more localized versions or more industry focused versions of local listings. Like, you could really even consider Taste the Local Difference a local listings provider, because we provide a full listing of businesses within a certain industry in a given area. So across the board, the most important thing to think about when it comes to local listings is that your name, address, and phone number are the same everywhere your business is listed. So you want to make sure, that you don't refer to yourself as, farm in one place and farms in another place. You want them to be exactly the same business name. And then again, that address and phone number to be exactly the same.
Hey, Christina, as a clarifying point, The first and last bullet on that last page are things that are really visible to everyone, while that local business markup is just visible to search engines. So that's sort of your behind the scenes, and then the other two are your up in front of the stage pieces.
Exactly. And then Google My Business, this local listings, is like your big upfront, front of the stage thing, I would say. This is an example, this screenshot here of the TLD local listing. You've probably seen it if you search anything about local businesses in Google, or if you use Google Maps. I know that I'm a super heavy Google Maps user, and I always look for businesses there if I'm trying to call them or something. The information that shows up in Google Maps comes from your Google My Business listing. And it is a really major way that people find businesses, whether it's restaurants or farms or cafes, whatever they're looking for. They tend to look through these specific listings. This is another view that you'll often see in the search results. So if this is a search for farm, from my house, which is just outside of Traverse City, so it's showing me the farms that are closest to my house. But here you have, ratings and descriptions, and people have really easy way to call you or visit your website. So it's really important for the visibility of your business to have this done really well. When you're working on your Google My Business listing, the very first thing you have to do is verify your business. It's pretty simple. You basically just tell Google that you're the owner of a business, and they will send a postcard to you, and you put the code in that postcard into your Google My Business account, and then you've proven that you are the owner of that business. And you can share access with other folks too if you want someone to help you manage it. And then you want to make sure that your profile is really thoroughly completed. I think that's one of the most important things, is making sure, you choose a category that is really accurate to your business. So you'll notice that these two farms, the category that they've chosen is organic farm. So not just farm, but organic farm, which gives, some more context to who they are as a business. You can add a description. There's a space to add a list of your services or your products. You can add photos, which is really helpful for folks trying to get, a better understanding of who you are as a business. So verify your business, fill out that profile, make sure it's super filled with all of the necessary information. And then the next most important thing to do is to encourage people to review your business. Reviews are a really big ranking factor when it comes to Google My Business. So something that has a big impact on how high you show up on that list of businesses that are similar to yours. So I always recommend folks do something to try and encourage customers to leave positive reviews if you don't have very many right now. So if it's an area that you think you could use some improvement, things like asking your most frequent customers to leave you a review, just, people who are frequenting your business, just ask them, and almost always they will do it, or at least some of them will do it. If you're having a harder time, you can also offer some sort of little carrot or nugget to folks. It could be something like, get a free tomato next time you see us at market, or have a cookie from our cafe, whatever it is, something little to say, if you leave a review and show us that you left it, we'll give you a little something to say thank you. And then finally, there is a system within Google My Business called Posts. This turns Google My Business into somewhat of a social media platform in which you can share what's going on at your business, what's the newest thing that's happening. It's really useful for if you have like special events or seasonal products, if you're a farm and having strawberries, like the first harvest of strawberries is something that people are really excited about. You could post a Google My Business post with a nice picture of strawberries that says, we're harvesting strawberries now. So really, it's just a way to kind of share some little tidbits and peeks into what's going on at your business at any given time. And it does help just to draw in the attention of potential customers. All right, that is the whole presentation. There is a question in here about finding someone to design a new website. That I would say is a little bit of a loaded question, just in that it really depends what you need. There are a lot of really simple tools out there that you don't need someone who's highly technical. You can build a website on something like Squarespace, or Square has a very simple website builder. It really depends how complex you want your website to be. Taste the Local Difference does offer some very basic website building services if you're a food business who would be interested in working with us on that. And then I would say doing some searches, find out what sorts of agencies or freelancers are available in your area who might be able to help you as well. All right. Reading another question. Somebody asked about Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a really important thing to be using if you're really trying to optimize your online presence. For anybody who doesn't know, it's something that you can install on your website that gives you a lot of data about who's visiting your website, what they're doing while they're there. And so the specific question was about resources to maximize use of Google Analytics. There is a Google Analytics training course, if you want to put a lot of time into it, called the Google Analytics Academy, right, Joe? That's what it's called.
Yep.
And that's like a really detailed deep dive. They have a whole bunch of videos to teach you how to use Google Analytics. If you want to dive deep into it, that's a great place to do it. The other thing that I really like doing is just setting up a dashboard. And you can, if you look up Google Analytics dashboard DIY or something like that, I'm sure you can find some information on it. But that can be a way to basically set up a home screen for your Google Analytics account where you have all the information that is most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then
another great, sorry, Christina, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing I really recommend in analytics, which is a little bit more complex in that academy, and there are plenty of other online tools that would teach you how to do this, but setting up goals. So you can essentially set up things that you want users to do on your website. And so it could be filling out a contact form or making a purchase, anything, or giving you a call, clicking your phone number on your website. And what that does is give you much easier access to people who are coming to your website and then actually taking those actions that you want them to take.
Mm-hmm. And outside of the Analytics Academy, another great way to learn about Google Analytics, especially if you have a specific question, is again to go to YouTube. YouTube has quickly become a source of information sharing where everything is available there, and there's a lot of video creators who are intimately aware of Google Analytics and create videos about it.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Does anyone else have questions? Feel free to put them in the Q&A section if you do. I did also just launch another poll that it would be great if everyone could answer, just to kind of get a sense of what you learned during this session. I know that we threw a lot of information at you. This will be available after the fact recorded if it's something that you want to go back and look at again. And I can also send out the slides if folks would be interested in seeing those as well. We got a question that is there a list of basic or first steps to do? The biggest thing I think is really going through your website and looking at the content that's there and thinking about what your customers would most want to know from you. I think that's always the best place to start. It's also the easiest from a technical perspective. Making sure that you're really just providing all of the information that customers would want to know. If there's things that you're regularly getting as questions from folks, you know, that at the market, somebody's always asking you the same question. Make sure that information is on your website. And then also the Google My Business piece of it. It's really important that you have Google My Business set up, especially if you're an in-person sort of business. Jill, do you have any other first steps that you would recommend?
I think you really hit the nail on the head with the two that you've listed. I think those make the most sense from a technical perspective too. You want to make sure that all of your products or services are adequately, accurately represented on your website. And I would say that really comes before anything like blogging. And then I completely agree with you, Google My Business and any of those other local listing sources. Making sure that NAP, name, address, phone number information is correct across all platforms is really vital to making sure that people can find you.
Great. Check and make sure we don't have any more questions. Those are all the questions that we had. I'll check the chat too. It looks like we are all good. Just a reminder to please respond to those questions in the poll before you log out today. Otherwise, thank you so much everyone for attending. I hope that you learned something good here. I know we shared lots of information, but it should give you all at least a great place to start thinking about all of this. I will make a point to send out the slides after we're done here so you can all reference them, and I can include a few links to good resources to reference as well in that email. And definitely feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll also drop my email address in the chat for everyone. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about SEO. I'm always happy to help. All right, have a great rest of your afternoon, everybody.